Hey everyone, I know it's been a while, over 40 days since my last upload. And no, it's not just me being lazy, there's a bit more behind that, and I might talk about it in a future video. But today we're switching gears. This isn't Left 4 Dead, but it still falls into the zombie horror category. We're going back to my roots on this channel to the Halo universe. Specifically, we're talking about the Flood, one of the most terrifying enemies ever created in science fiction. So here's the question for today's video. What would actually happen if the Flood showed up on Earth today in 2025? For those who don't know, the Flood is a parasitic, galaxy-consuming organism in the Halo universe. It doesn't just infect, it absorbs absolutely everything. It hijacks the nervous system of any sentient being, mutates it into a grotesque weapon, and links it into a growing hive mind. The Flood doesn't just kill, it thinks. And the more it infects, the smarter it becomes. Its origins trace back to the precursors, which were ancient beings that once uplifted entire species until they were corrupted. What emerged from their downfall was the Flood, a self-replicating, civilization-ending entity that nearly wiped out the galaxy. In Halo lore, even the advanced human race of the future with faster-than-light travel, AI support, and alien allies barely survives encounters with the Flood. But what if it wasn't the future? What if the Flood appeared on our Earth? No plasma weapons, no Forerunner tech, no Spartans. Just us with 2025's military gear, fractured governments, and the internet screaming for answers. Let's play out what this might actually look like. The initial infection starts in a remote biolab, Siberia, Greenland, maybe even the Amazon. It's isolated at first. A researcher reports strange tissue growths in sealed containers. Their body cam footage shows squirming tendrils beneath glass. Then, silence. By the time the local government sends help, it's too late. Everyone is infected, and more importantly, a spore sample made it out. And here is where it gets terrifying. Russia declares martial law immediately, shuts off the region, but internal spread is already underway. China initiates massive drone strikes on suspected zones, but the Flood thrives in chaos. Any corpse becomes a new soldier. The US deploys special forces, but boots on the ground only work until the first squad gets infected and then turned. Within days, NATO is divided. Some countries want to use nukes, others want containment, and all the while spores drift through the air, infecting birds, rats, livestock. Humanity is still trying to understand it, not realizing it's already inside them. The Flood doesn't just infect, it recycles. A body is reanimated and reshaped. Muscles are torn and rearranged for speed and power. Arms split into tendrils, bones snap backwards, and worst of all, the host is still alive, conscious during this transformation. That's the psychological horror of the Flood. Every scream you hear from the biomass, that's someone still trying to fight from inside. In Halo's lore, the Flood has even reanimated Spartans, and they didn't go down easy. Imagine what it would do to us. So what would civilians do in our hypothetical scenario? The wealthy would most likely retreat into private bunkers, preppers would seal off underground shelters, but the thing is, spores don't need doors, they need time. Major cities like New York, Tokyo, or London would most likely be lost in hours. The infection rate would undoubtedly be exponentially high. Governments would probably try to set up green zones or military-controlled cities with limited entry. But one infected refugee, that's all it takes. Soon you're watching live streams of infected attacking soldiers. Then the feed's cut off. The internet collapses under panic, misinformation, conspiracy. People think it's fake until it isn't. Once the flood absorbs enough biomass, it reaches a tipping point, also known as the Gravemind, a massive tentacled creature housing millions of sentient minds. But it's not just a beast, it's a tactician. It starts speaking in every language. Broadcasts take over the radio, phones ring with whispered voices.
I am peace. I am salvation.
And the terrifying part, people start listening. Some willingly walk into the biomass. Some see it as salvation. Cults rise. Cities crumble not from infection, but from people letting it in. So, could we nuke it? Sure. We'd wipe out a city, maybe two. But what happens when spores escape the blast zone? When birds, wind, or even ocean currents carry infection across continents? We might slow it down, but it only takes one cell to start again. And even if we glass the surface, what if it's already in orbit? A single infected astronaut, a contaminated ISS module, Earth becomes a sealed petri dish, doomed from the inside. In the end, humanity doesn't go out fighting. We go out changing. Governments fall silent, cities become hive mounds, oceans churn with biomass. The last survivors hide in space, bunkers, or die trying to save what little is left. But the flood? It continues, it adapts, it remembers, and it starts looking upward toward the stars. So, what would happen if the flood came to Earth in 2025? We wouldn't fight a war. We'd become the next chapter in its evolution, and the universe would forget us, except as part of something far, far worse. But let's not stop there. Let's talk about what happens next. Once Earth falls, the flood doesn't stop. It's not satisfied with one world, it never is. Earth becomes a breeding ground, a fully saturated biomass core. Oceans thick with tissue, skies choked with spore clouds, entire continents reduced to writhing nests of flesh and bone. From orbit, Earth looks alive. Not in the way it used to, but like a wound that never healed. A pulsing, infected eye staring back at the stars. And the Gravemind? Now it has billions of minds inside it. Scientists, leaders, soldiers, all their knowledge, their fears, their hopes, consumed and repurposed. Satellites are hijacked, space stations fall under its control, deep space transmissions begin broadcasting coordinates, beacons calling to other worlds. The flood doesn't need ships, it needs directions, and now it has them. Even worse, we were a test. An experiment in modern infection response. The Gravemind now knows how we think, how we delay, how we hope. And when the next species hears the signal, it won't be a warning, it'll be an invitation. Because remember, the flood doesn't conquer through brute force, it conquers by understanding you and then becoming you. So maybe the real horror isn't that Earth was destroyed, maybe it's that we helped, we opened the door, and we carried the spores. We turned on each other long before the Gravemind ever had to lift a tendril. And someone out there, maybe centuries from now, someone will discover what's left of Earth, and they'll wonder, were these creatures intelligent? Did they ever have a chance? And the biomass will answer in 1,000 voices at once. We were. And that is the world we're left with. Not one that ended in fire, but one that was rewritten cell by cell into something unrecognizable, something patient. The flood didn't just take Earth, it took our legacy, our choices, and our weaknesses. And now it waits. So if you're still watching, thank you. I know this was a bit of a darker, more lore-heavy video, but it's the kind of story I love digging into. Sci-fi horror like this reminds us just how fragile everything really is. One mistake, one spore, one breath, and it's over. If you enjoyed this video, drop a comment below and let me know, what part of the flood terrifies you the most? Do you think any country could have stopped it, or would we all just fall the same? And if you want a part 2 where we explore what Earth would actually look like centuries after a flood takeover, how it might affect space travel, or what kind of resistance might still exist, let me know. I've got some wild theories I'd love to share. As always, if you're new here, consider subscribing. I cover horror across games, media, and sometimes even reality. From Left 4 Dead to Halo, from creepy analog tapes to viral outbreaks, we talk about the monsters that keep us up at night. Until next time, stay safe, stay human, and whatever you do, please don't inhale the spores.